Um, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around the globe. My name is Veronica Igale Monoja, and I will be your moderator for today. This discussion has been sponsored by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. Welcome to this important discussion where we will be discussing about the use of social media by the youth to reinforce gender equality and promote a peaceful coexistence. Thank you all for joining us. Before we start our discussion, I would like to briefly introduce our great panelists. We have Mary Kadi Manoa. Now, Mary is an experienced communications person with a little over 10 years of experience in communications for international non-governmental organizations, and she's also skilled in journalism and media relations. She has worked across several fields, including health, entrepreneurship, and WASH, that is water, hygiene, and sanitation. She has a grants portfolio working in coordination and internal communications in the nonprofit organization and the management industry. Mary Kadi, you're highly welcome.
Thank you.
My next panelist is Akot Sarah Dut. Ms. Akot is the South Sudanese Women Awards, South Sudanese Women Awards Peace winner for the Youth Award. She's a youth activist who's very passionate about making a positive impact on the communities and vulnerable people. She has constantly stood for the rights of the South Sudanese youth and has advocated for youth issues and participated in multiple youth initiatives, including the Youth Innovation Challenge for Technology Solutions to address conflict early warning and response in South Sudan. She is the current executive director of Women Voices of Hope for the Vulnerable, a women-led organization engaging the youth and catering for the vulnerable in South Sudan. She is also an ambassador of the African Rebirth to South Sudan and a member of the Youth Peace and Security Coalition in South Sudan. Ms. Akot is an entrepreneur and is currently pursuing a Bachelor of Arts in Procurement and Logistics Management from Kampala University, South Sudan branch. Ms. Akot, you're highly welcome.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Namaku Elizabeth. Ms. Namaku is a university student majoring in math. She's also an intern at the Portland Public Library and a math tutor for college students. Ms. Namaku, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Our only male on the panel is Mr. Patrick Godi. Mr. Patrick is a writer, activist, and arts curator. He worked extensively in peace advocacy, conflict resolution, and preventing violent extremism with a special interest in youth mentorship, participation in policy development, and decision making. Mr. Patrick Godi, you're highly welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
In absentia is Ms. Joanne Mule. She will join us. Ms. Mule is a journalist, a researcher, writer, and mental health advocate. Before we jump into our questions, I'd like to say that in South Sudan, over 70% of the population is below the age of 30. That means we have a large number of the population being made of the youth. So it is therefore important to view the impact they have in the development of this country and in the resolution of the conflict that we are currently experiencing, or in this post-conflict situation that the country is in. So, and then with the recent increase in the use of social media, youth have used social media extensively, not only to pass messages of peace, but also messages of conflict, and as a way to have their voices heard. So the youth have the power to make and break this country. Therefore, today we are here to listen to a group of youth who will share their views and their experience with us. My first question is going to go to Mary Kadi. If you would like to please unmute yourself. Please, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using social media? And what has surprised you the most about how the South Sudanese youth and population use social media? Mary Kadi, over to you.
Thank you, Igale, and thank you for that introduction. So with social media, what I can say to myself that the fact that your social media uses the multimedia tool, so we have images and photos, we have videos, we have text, and you can use either one or you can even use all of them. That's like an advantage. So you're not limited to a certain media platform. Another thing is that it's objective, so it allows everything. It allows the bad, it allows the good. So, like in journalism, the fact that you have a space to have the bad and the good, then you get a choice to select what you feel appeals to you or relates to you. And I feel like that's an advantage. Another thing with social media is that it has, so at the moment, it's what people are really working on, but is the privacy settings, does the age control or restriction limits, etc. Another thing about social media is that it is universally accessible. So like you can reach regions that you can't even imagine, places that you wouldn't imagine you could reach a youth in whatever country or whatever island or wherever it is. Another thing about social media, which is a pro, is that it contributes to the larger advancement of gender equality, which is a topic we're discussing today. And the fact that it contributes to that is also a big deal. And so that's more or less it. Another thing about social media is that it brings to the forefront policy making, like when it comes to, so there's the mainstream media and then the social media. And so with social media, the fact that it's like the click of a button and you're already there, whether you're in your sitting room or your wherever it is on the streets, it brings you, it brings that mainstream media to your phone, it brings it to your tablet, and that makes it accessible. And so that's another advantage about it. When it comes to like the cons, I think that's something we've been exposed to a lot, is that we have a lot of people getting lost in the utopia of it all. Everyone thinks everything is perfect online. When you see when you're online on social media, everything is perfection. And that tends to bring about anxiety, it brings about depression. And so you find a very big number of youth striving for an ideal that actually doesn't exist. And that's another problem with social media. If I can just summarize really quickly, is also another thing is it has reduced attention span. We literally, me personally, as a person, I do not enjoy reading really long texts anymore. I would read books, but now like reading even just 2 paragraphs on social media, it makes me tired. I'm like, ugh, I'm used to like really quick, short paragraphs. And I think that's another problem. If that's what social media is doing, then we're going to have a very big problem in the future. If I can answer your second question, of course, but what surprises me the most is that the level of belief that we have as South Sudanese youth in the content that is being portrayed on social media it's alarming. Like we'll read something and we'll immediately believe it. And if I can just give a quick example, I think it was last week or the week before when the president was congratulating, was he congratulating Ruto? And he said, Madame Ruto. So when I watched the clip, as a journalist, the first thing I thought of, this clip is really short. And I have a feeling that this was cut. And I really think he was meaning the wife of Ruto. Yeah, that's what I actually thought, because I'm like, he can't have made that mistake. That is not possible. And so it took me almost 12 videos to actually get the full video that said he was meaning the wife to Ruto. You know, in South Sudan, we call the wives as, Madame so and so, but you're not saying her name, you're saying her husband's name. So these are things that we need to be cultured into to understand what you see is not what it is. So that's the thing that shocks me, the level of belief we have. Finally, is the comfort level that we have in exposing our private lives. That is very, 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 if I can say, it's very, very this discomforting. Like, someone is literally comfortable with exposing their room, where they stay, the road to their house, and they do not know they're exposing themselves to security threats. And those are like the main things that really surprise me about social media, and where our youth are going with it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Mary Kadi. And just to take you back a little bit, do you mind telling us the different types of what is referred to as social media?
Okay, so social media is meant to be an interactive platform, and as I mentioned before, it has several multimedia facets to it. So there's the video, there's the audio. So I could give examples which would make it much more clear. So, like Instagram, it's a photo sharing platform, and the fact that there's that common cliche saying that a photo speaks 1,000 words, and that's like one way. Another thing is like YouTube, where the audio is put in, then a video, and that already speaks volumes. There is Facebook, which combines everything. And so the fact that there's the interactive aspect of it, and then there's the entertainment aspect of it, and then there's the information aspect of it, that's social media, more or less, if I can put it in a very basic way. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mary. And just to throw the same question, Joanne, you're welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Veronica. Nice seeing you guys all.
Yes. I'd like to ask Patrick the same question that I asked Mary. You just make an addition to what Mary has already said. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using social media? And what has surprised you the most about how the South Sudanese youth and population are using social media? Patrick, over to you.
Thank you, Veronica. I think, as my colleague, Ms. Mary, has already enumerated a good number of the advantages about using social media, I just want to add that we have seen that it has become a platform where young people come to connect. I have had quite a good share of experiences when it comes to people reaching out to me through the social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter. And most of that is because of the work that I'm doing. So you find that even people in the far ends of the country who relate with your work and they recognize you end up, inboxing you and showing you that appreciation for what you have been doing in the community. Not only that, we have seen that also activists have taken to active mobilization on Facebook and other social media platforms. Just last week, we're doing a cleaning exercise in Gudele, and the medium that we used to reach out to as many young people as possible was mostly on WhatsApp and on Facebook. So truly, we see that social media is a powerful tool if it is used rightly. But also, we have seen that it has its own disadvantages as any other technology which is available on the market. And I think for me, I always tend to focus on the positive side, and then work around with the policies to address or to mitigate the challenges that come about with any technology. And I think when we come to South Sudan, the major challenge when it comes to social media usage is the bullying, the trolling of public figures that happens there. And I think this goes further to issues to do with mental health of those who are involved with such, or who are victims of the social media bullies. And I think this is an issue which we have seen prominent government officials come out clearly and showing their interest to legislate. And I know also as activists, we do have our own concerns that with more restriction or with more legislation around the internet, it's sort of going to affect our cyber rights. But I think when it comes to legislation on the internet, the key things for me, which I would recommend in future as we evolve and as more of our people start to access the internet, and there is that need, to create a platform that is healthy for all of us, is to focus more on how to control, the negative use of
Patrick, we can't hear you. Mr. Patrick?
but again, not in a way to begin some. Hello?
Yes, we weren't hearing you for the past, I think, 30 seconds. We didn't hear anything you're
Oh,
saying.
sorry. I think I had an internet disruption.
Your internet, yes.
Yeah, so for me, when it comes to, so for me, I was talking more now about the disadvantages of the social media and how the platforms can be made, safe for all of us to use. So when there is legislation coming in, especially from the government, I think it should be focused mostly on how to make the platform safe. We have seen cases of impersonation on the social media platforms. We have seen the surveillance of activists. And I think those are not some of the things that we love to see on this platform. So, yes, we see the good part of it, but there is also the negative part of it, which I think it is possible for all of us when we work collectively to address the challenges that come with it. But yeah, as a young person, I see that there is so much promise in the use of social media. We have seen the opportunities that it has created for young people who have ventured into doing online businesses and promoting them through Facebook, through Twitter, and all the other uh, platforms. I think this is very commendable, and that is the part which we need to promote as young people and organizations that are working on with young people.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. I'd just like to ask Ms. Namaku the same question, given that, yes, you're a South Sudanese, but I think you live in the US. So can you kindly give us some of the advantages and disadvantages of using social media? And then what has surprised you the most about how South Sudanese and youth population use social media, especially those around you in the US? Ms. Namaku, over to you.
Thank you. So for the disadvantages, I'll start with addiction. Social media is very addicting. I feel like I'm 20 years old, so when I was like 8 years old, social media started booming, and so I grew up in like the social media world. And I feel like it gets worse every year, but a lot of my peers are like super addicted to our phones. We'll be in class and we'll literally be on our phones half the time. And then I think there's a lot of inappropriate content because, like, for example, TikTok, when TikTok started blowing up, there was really like anyone could have a TikTok, even little kids could have TikToks. And on TikTok, you do not control what you see because there's like a For You page and a following page where you see things that people you follow post. So for your For You page, things will just show up based on people who are like in your city or your state. So things will just randomly pop up on your page and you never know what to expect. And then I think there's a lot of cyberbullying on social media. A lot of times, like someone can post a picture, and in the comment section, people will be like, "Oh, you look like this. Oh, why aren't you like this?" And then it affects someone's self-esteem. And especially with like famous people, you could be famous, yeah, you have like 2 million followers, but half the times in your comment sections, a lot of negative things there. And then also, I feel like the good parts, networking. I've been able to meet a lot of great people online that I probably would have never met in person because the world is so big and we can't be everywhere at the same time. But it's a good place to network and meet people with like similar ideas or different ideas from you. I also think it's good for entertainment. Sometimes like there's a new song out, you won't know it's out, but some like the artist could post it on Instagram and then that's how you know the song is out and then you like it. And also another thing is just like I feel like a lot of times people use Indeed to find jobs, but sometimes you could find like a job opening on like an Instagram post or like a Facebook post. So that's another positive thing about social media. And then I feel like the issue with a lot of South Sudanese kids right now. So a lot of the kids who are around my age, because of social media, we think going to school is not it because in our heads we think social media is all of it. And so in like 10 years from now, we're probably not going to have degrees and just like have our whole entire lives on social media. And I feel like that's very wrong. My mom always tells me that everything can be taken away from you except your degree. And so in my head, it's like go to school regardless. Even if I became TikTok famous, I still have my degree because if TikTok got shut down today or Instagram got deleted, what are you going to do? You're going to lose all those 2 million followers. You don't know them in person. They just follow you online. And depending on what you post, half the times what we post online is not really true. People think, oh, that's how someone like, because on TikTok, you could post like a day in my life. It could be wrong. I probably don't live like that every day, but you just do it for the content. And so a lot of kids are getting misled. I have a friend who's a YouTuber and he posted a video and he was like, oh, everything you learn at school, you could learn on TikTok or on YouTube. And though he's kind of right, I feel like you don't get a degree from TikTok or YouTube. So even if you have, oh, I'm a TikToker in my resume, there's certain jobs you're not going to get just because you don't have a degree. And so I feel like education is like super important. Even if we have this whole social media thing booming, people should still be able to go to school because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like 20 years ago, that older generation probably didn't know social media would be a thing. And now we're in it. But what do we know is going to happen after in like the next 20 years? It could be different. And so I feel like that's like a bad thing for the kids around my age. We just get distracted so quickly and we don't focus on education. I have friends who just think, okay, I'm done with high school. I have a high school diploma. That's it. That is not enough. You need to get a degree. So you don't know what's going to happen with social media in like the next years. And having that degree and having social media on the side could help you do better things compared to just having social media and no degree. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Namako, and I definitely agree with you. I think, yes, much as some benefits to using social media, the advantages are many. And it's not only affecting the youth, even children below like 10 years. What you're just saying about the fact that kids spend so much time watching what's on TikTok. I think as a mother, I'm actually experiencing that at the moment with my daughter because she will ask for the phone, oh, can I Google homework? But then after that, you just catch her, watching things on TikTok, who's doing what in America. And it's a challenge. It's a big challenge. And I think we need to, as parents, as lawmakers, as youth, we need to find a way how to go about this before it actually destroys our population. My next question will go to Ms. Sarah. Yes, Ms. Sarah, you're there. So can you please tell us how can the youth use social media to reinforce gender equality and promote a peaceful coexistence? Ms. Sarah, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for the question. Yeah, sure, as my colleagues have said, a lot of positive and negative impacts of social media. I believe there's a lot of positivity in the youth using the social media to build up their communities and also to promote and reinforce gender equality, because we are two genders, but we have the same rights. So to me, I feel like the social media has been used so much by the youth. Those who believe in gender equality have used the social media, to express their views, because the social media allows both genders to express whatever they feel like. Like I know what I'm facing as a female, I will go to social media because it gives me that platform to discuss my issue, and then also the other gender also discusses the same thing. So I believe social media has contributed towards expression of feelings and views depending on the gender. So that is one thing. Another thing is that social media is a good platform for education. It has given both genders the ability to learn. Those who know the values, the positive values of social media have learned a lot, because there are a lot of things that come that pop up on social media, like trainings, like the workshops, like some content that has been put there on social media, and you could learn from it, because this is where you come from. So I feel like social media has been used so positively to educate yourself, whether you are a woman or you're a man. You have the freedom to learn. So I believe it has given us that advantage for both of us to learn, the man and the woman. Also, social media has a lot of information that we could both benefit from. We get too many updates concerning both male and female, or for both genders. We have learned a lot of things. So there's a lot of information that is available everywhere that wasn't there before, when there was no internet. Because right now we can search for, how can I, like for example, if I want to know how can I avoid gender violence at home as a man, you will go and then you Google and then you learn. So from there you will be able to avoid beating your wife, because you will know the negative aspect of beating your wife up. So also, social media has given opportunity for both genders to gain opportunities like the jobs. There are so many jobs right now on social media, and there are so many people who have already gotten those jobs and they're already working. It is because of social media. Also, there are other opportunities like education, uh, like workshops. There are so many workshops right now that both genders have benefited from, and so it the job. There is no discrimination when it comes to jobs because of social media, because all the criteria are there. As long as you are fit for the job, then you can go for it. So also, social media has given us freedom to express, like I said before, our views openly without discrimination. That's why we have this platform, and South Sudan Women Intellectuals Forum has always, it's a women-led organization, but they have the right. They always discuss issues. And now this is the 91st, is it the 91st meeting or discussion that they have organized, because they're also women and they have the right to discuss their issues. And they are not only discussing women issues, they discuss both issues. So it has also created gender equality in that aspect, because we can also have men discussing also with us. Like now we have Mr. Goody with us, also discussing issues as such. I can say social media has also a little bit reduced the rate or the level of gender violence in some aspect, because there are people who are educated. When you go on social media and then you find a story similar to what you do to your wife at home, and someone has taken it to social media, it is the topic that everybody is discussing in the US, in Juba, everywhere. So if you are a man who does that and someone gets to find out that you're doing it, also you will also be discussed on social media. So some men or women, they fear their reputation to be ruined on social media, because some people have taken social media as something very crucial in their life. So I see it has also reduced that the rate of gender violence, because even I've seen a lot of advocacy on social media concerning gender violence, and how people are fighting it worldwide because of social media. Also, social media has helped the teens, both female and men, to create identities on social media, and there is no discrimination there. Because as me, I have my page. You cannot come and tell me you put down your page because you're a woman. Mm-mm. So we have equality on social media. I have my page. I can discuss whatever that I want. I have my networks. I have my audience who listen to me. So social media also has given us that platform to create that advantage in that. So also social media, in a way, it has helped both genders create relationships. Right now we have so many relationships, like everybody must have a relationship, whether with whoever that you want. It's because some people meet also on social media. You have seen me somewhere, you're interested in me, also me, I've seen you somewhere, I'm also interested in you. So we link up, we talk until we find ourselves, we are now lovers, and then we end up being couples for a life, and we're going to give birth to kids. So social media has also provided that space for relationship building for both genders. It has also created sharing of expertise. Everyone is able to share what they know. Like me myself, like you have seen the flag behind me. This is what I do best. I don't have any other job that I'm doing. So I keep on sharing what I know. That is creating patriotism and making others also join me in the rest. So it gives us both the male and the female to share with the rest, to share with your audience what you know, so that people could benefit from you. It has also helped people connect with their families, like both male and female. For example, we have the lost boys, the lost girls. Right now, they have the ability to meet their families after a long time, and that is because of social media. I've also seen that social media it has created creativity in so many people, both the male and the female. Everybody is able to create anything that they feel like. So that is what I can say for now, as how the social media has created gender balance or gender equality in our societies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Akut, and I totally agree with you. Out of experience, I think social media has brought both sexes, male and female, closer together, because it's one platform where actually most of the times we're able to engage freely with each other, and it has also extended our outreach. You're not only limited maybe to the male or young men or young ladies that you know in around your area. You connect with people all over the globe, both sexes. And I'd like to ask the same question to Miss Miss Joan Mule. How can the youth on social media use social media to reinforce gender equality and promote a peaceful coexistence? Just in addition to what Sarah has already said, you give us your view, please. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you. Thank you so much for seeing the need to discuss how we can use social media, because in today's world, social media has become one of the main things that, whether it's in your organization or in your personal life, that you should get engaged in, as far as your life is concerned, be it career, as mentioned before by my fellow panelists. So that we create gender equality, reinforce gender equality, and also promote peaceful coexistence. I would also want to focus so much from the area that I know best as far as social media is concerned. So there's a lot of when it comes to the cons of using social media, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of disinformation, fake news, hate speech, and all these that contribute greatly to our peaceful coexistence in our societies. And when we can, as youth, try to identify these things or these vices, I think it's in our best interest to see that we can push forward what we are trying to advocate for. So, how we can use this is that when we start first identifying the things that we see that affect or create gender inequality in our communities, and also what brings about the unrest as far as peaceful coexistence is concerned, we can be able to learn more and find ways forward. I'm really happy. One of the greatest things South Sudanese youth are doing is that the minority who are well informed, the minority of the people or youth that are using social media want to use it to impact the society. Okay, and trust me, they are really doing great. I see most of the youth that are doing great in this country are using their social media to get there. As mentioned before, where you get the connections, where you get to expose your skills and get a chance or opportunity to engage in other platforms or medium to see that you do your work. So advocacy, engaging in advocacy is one of the things that every advocate in South Sudan, be it what, uses their social media for to see the positive impact in our communities. So when more of us can get to engage more in terms of advocacy through our platforms, I think we can create an empire of great people in this nation, hence bringing about gender equality and coexistence peacefully. And then we could also look at youth taking these platforms to spearhead engagement on sense-making debates that will affect policy making in our societies. The issue of dredging has been really, really big. I don't want to comment so much on my opinion on that or how I felt that social media was really a great contributor. I should say social media put a lot of pressure out there. The advocates used the social media to make to see that the country sees or our leaders sees the concerns of this country as far as that topic is or was concerned. Matters at some point, one would say sometimes it's in vain, but that does not mean that we should not continuously use it because change is something that will happen gradually, not instantly. But social media, when we can use our social media platforms to participate in these engagements, I think it can really, really be great. And I also realize that our government actually pays attention to how the youth of this country use the social media. So it is a very great thing, seeing that that comes positively and negatively to activists in this country, where if you are being so much vocal against the government and then they following you and you get into trouble. And also when you're using it for the positive, maybe you're not really you're using your language, because when it comes to advocacy, your choice of words matters, your time, the timeliness matters, and how you put your message. You can actually educate someone politely than using some rude words or insulting that person. And that's where we have this toxicity when it comes to advocacy and also the positive way. So most of us miss the point when we start to misuse words, or when we start to select words in a very inappropriate and disrespectful manner, uh, without, of course, ruling out the point you're trying to make. So I think the youth can do that to create a gender equality and peaceful coexistence. And also to say taking responsibility as a citizen will also be a great thing, using your social media to see that you are portraying what a citizen should be doing. Most of us are very ignorant of the impact we have or influence we have on social media. And that's why I say there's a minority group of people in South Sudan who are the advocates that are making impact. Most of us do not know how to use it the right way to get our information or advocate for what we believe should be adopted by the community we live in. So we also have to look at what we share. What information are we sharing? The content that we promote on our platforms. Okay, if you can see, you find somebody who's well informed, putting out an opinion, well researched article, you find that it will capture the attention of people based on their understanding. And that means your audience becomes the intellectual group or community who are actually the policymakers in our societies. So, and also we'll have people who are focusing on this information. They just deliberately create information and then share it. So when we become responsible citizens or become fact checkers, fact checkers individually to see that what we share on our platforms is a verified information, is information that is not inciting violence, and also information that is not bringing about divisionism as far as that gender. We see it on social media. It could be fun, yes, but when we start to filter the information that we put out there, I think it would be great. So I think from my point, that's what I will say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mule, and I definitely agree with you. The level of impact that the youth has when they use social media, like I had said earlier on, we have the power to break or make things happen in this country. I'd just like to give an example of when last week or 2 weeks back, when we had the journalist who was arrested. It wasn't only the women who advocated for her release. It was everybody, both men and women, who made sure that she was set free. Also, when we were having the discussions surrounding the dredging of the water bodies in is it Upper Nile? Sorry for my misinformation. Also, that I think the leaders at the end came to that, decided to put a stop to the process that was going on, because I think of the kind of information, the kind of resistance that the youth mostly decided to put up towards what was happening. So if we put social media to good use, it's definitely going to benefit all of us, both male and female in this country. My next question is going to go to Miss Mary. Yes, Miss Mary Kadi. As a communications expert, what are some of the important key issues that the youth should keep in mind when using social media? Do you think social media records are permanent and are thus likely to affect people in the future? Over to you, Mary Kadi.
Thank you, Veronica. So going with your first question, there's one thing that the youth need to remember is that social media is still social, it's still technical, it's still a platform that many people across the world, in remote areas, in little villages somewhere, in really remote places that can't access this type of technology. And so we need to remember that there is still that digital divide. In our case, especially, for example, in South Sudan. So a person down deep in the village there, they wouldn't even be able to understand what's going on or even bother with certain issues to them that would be really trivial, And when I talk about trivial, someone down there would be struggling to get a fresh, jerry can, fresh water, like a jerry can of fresh water. And we're here online maybe debating about releasing somebody, for instance. Of course, to us, it's something important, but to them, they wouldn't see that as an issue. Everything is interconnected, but then again, we need to realize that there is that digital divide, and so we need to expand the ways or the terms or the way, the methods or the tools that we use in terms of calling out for example, patriarchal norms, calling out other sensitive gender-based issues. And so when it comes to that, we need to keep that in mind always and always. Social media, we need to remember it's either an option or it's either an obligation. So whatever is portrayed on social media, yeah, it's a standard. But unfortunately, it's a different standard for different people. And it actually betrays us on the actual thing that is on the ground and what we keep speaking about. So, for instance, every girl has an opportunity, but then again, they're stifled or they're muffled, when it comes to the stereotypes and the misconceptions. So they'll go online and something will go viral, for instance, a certain shape of the body or a certain hairstyle. If I can say, for example, the natural hair movement right now, everyone wants to go natural. Everyone wants to look good. But there is, for example, whatever you're exposed to. For instance, I really love Instagram. So when I'm online there, I choose to follow the natural hair movements. Someone else may choose to do, I don't know, long hair weaves that are Brazilian, and it looks really good. But we have two different choices. So we cannot, so to me, that's, it's my option, but I feel obligated to follow that because it's what I want. Someone else may feel differently. So we need to put in mind that people are following you or people are influenced by you because they choose to. It's not because you've said something that has changed their mind. But then again, if they do get exposed to something different and you actually influence them into a better change, then bravo, good for you, cheers. But it takes a lot to get them there. Another thing we need to know is we shouldn't allow social media to devalue us as people. It shouldn't limit our values. Unfortunately, it has become the basis, it has become the foundation, it has become the platform for everyone to write out their lives, to run the show when it comes to how things should look, how things should go. And it's sad, it's really sad, but that's the reality right now on the ground. And um, if we do not have that self sense of our own worth, then we wouldn't really move. We can't make self choices without having to refer to that every now and then. Another thing we need to remember is that social media has these algorithms, they call them algorithms, and they tend to bring to you what they usually find you on every now and then. And sometimes they will change that to sort of, it's almost like a marketing strategy. And so we need to remember that these types of things happen, and that if for instance, I'm to apply the roles of journalism, this, objectivity, um, we, the haters and the lovers are all in the same platform, yeah? And if we're talking about balance of good image and bad image, we're not saying we should stop the people who are, putting the bad image, but then again, it's almost like saying, I'll give you a rotten apple and a good apple. Which one would you choose? Definitely the good one, but they need to see that there's the rotten one for them to know that the rotten one is actually a bad apple. So it's almost saying, people are posting videos about submissiveness when it comes to women and them, for example, not being allowed to go to work, and another video showing a husband allowing his wife to work and then the benefits of her working and coming up to the house and helping to contribute to the household finances and everything, then someone somewhere maybe will watch that video and say, oh, okay, so I've been, stopping my wife from working, but at the end of the day, this is the, the advantage of her working. Okay, so why not try this out? And they try it out and they find it's really good. I'm trying to remember the second question you asked. Sorry, just repeat for me the second question. Sorry, I think you're on mute. You're on mute, Veronica.
Yes, sorry. The second part of the question is, do you think social media records are permanent and are thus likely to affect people in the future?
I really believe they are. So it's very techy. But so, for instance, you have an account and you have been writing. So let's put the instance of politicians. So they'll write something maybe in 1990 and then they run for presidency. We've seen this a lot. And they run for presidency in 2010. And so all of a sudden, someone, because they're trying to deface this person or they're trying to use propaganda to get them down or to reduce their supporters and voters, they will pick that particular item they posted in that year and say, this is what this person thought at that time. What makes you think that they are pro-abortion, for example, or they're against abortion? You know, they will use these types of information that you have had way back, which you think maybe got lost in the very world wide web, which isn't the case. We're not the ones who created the internet, so we do not know who will want to pull out the rabbit out of the hat whenever the time comes that they need to pull that rabbit out of the hat. So it may be wide, things may get lost, but I believe it's in there somewhere. When someone needs to pull that out, trust me, they will pull it out. So however much we delete our accounts or we deactivate our accounts, there is still that probability that that so-called lost account will appear somewhere when it's needed, especially when it's to be used against you. And I believe that's more for activists. I just wanted to point out a story. Well, it's not a story, it's something that actually happened. So there's this lady, she's a Somali, she's an activist, and she would go online on Facebook to she was an activist against the gender-based violence of women in her community. And the people who didn't like what she was doing, her fellow countrymen, they went as far as to, when there's this feature on Facebook where you write, for example, this content is inappropriate, you send it to Facebook and say this person is posting, for example, nude content or abusive content, etc. So they used that feature against her, and Facebook actually shut down her account. And what is interesting is that she was not doing anything, but she was actually advocating for the rights of the women at that particular time. So people have got into an is it a technical feature that there's no one behind the computer that's actually looking at what these people are reporting? Or is it some default, for example, mechanism that they put that if there's so many, for example, complaints about this account, it will just automatically shut down. Like, what's happening? Why would Facebook do that? And she went as far as to say, like, if that's the case, then we're having a big problem. If social media can actually support the negative naysayers against us, then that's going to be a very big problem in future. And she continues until this day. She's now on YouTube. She continues to use YouTube as her platform because YouTube, obviously, the features for her there, she felt were more friendly to her. So yeah, this is just one example I can put out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now that I've had it from you, I think that sounds scary. I don't know, maybe if I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to delete all everything I've posted on Facebook. But then you're saying still it can be traced. So I was just thinking also, maybe I'll ask that to Patrick or Mary, if you still want to add, you can go on. I was just wondering, do we have a law in South Sudan that's regulating the use of social media? Patrick, over to you. Then Mary, you can add after. Patrick, please unmute. Just give us your view on that. Then Mary can add. Patrick, are you here with us?
Hey, sorry, Veronica. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, your internet keeps breaking. I said, based on what Mary has just told us, I was just wondering, Do we have laws in South Sudan, media-related laws maybe, that regulate the use of social media?
I think I have not come across any legislation that seeks to, for example, direct the use of social media. Although we have seen that there is now a keen interest by the Ministry of Information to actually regulate that sector. So it is something we can say even when it comes to the laws governing how we using these platforms, it's something which is at its infancy. But now we see that there is strong interest from the National Communications Authority together with the Ministry of Information to see that they develop laws that govern these spaces. We have also seen that there is a provision which was signed by the president, although that is something which face a lot of opposition from the citizens. But I think those are currently some of the steps which the government is trying to take to see that this space, which has for long been ungoverned, this space which has not been under any form of governance, is brought together, and there is at least some decorum when it comes to how people are supposed to use it. So it will be interesting, and actually, I think now as young people, we need to focus on shaping how these laws and policies are going to look like when it comes to internet governance, which obviously, of course, includes social media platforms. So, as young people, what are the key areas that you want to see? How do we see that these legislations that will come will not erode our freedom and rights, to use of this technology? I think for me, those will be the interesting areas that, as young people, we need to have conversations around to see that finally, when we do have legislation, it is one that seeks to promote the use of the internet, but also in a way that does not infringe on our rights.
And yes, that leads me to your next question. As a youth leader, what key messages do you have for young people on the proper use of social media and the likely implications of using social media wrongly? Over to you, Patrick.
Yeah, I think for me, I tend to look at using the internet from the positive side. And I have so many examples of how personally I have used it to, advance ideas that seek to advance societal change. And for me, I have tended to want to rely more on social media when it comes to organizing, when it comes to campaigns, and there has been excellent results on that. It is easy to reach young people. Right now in South Sudan, I think most of the young people who are in the urban areas are using social media compared to the traditional media, which we know, including the national broadcaster or the newspapers. So if we are going to reach to young people and we have messages that are intended to reach them, then I think social media is the best platform to use. But also, it has been highlighted, the issues around its misuse, things to do with hate speech, the misinformation and disinformation. And I think these are the areas where, as young people, we are going wrong, and there is need for us to have a correctional mindset when it comes to use of social media. For me, I want to see that young people take up these spaces to organize themselves, to speak up on issues which matter to them. We have seen that there are issues that affect young people, including the high poverty levels, the high illiteracy levels, the lack of jobs. These are the issues that we want to see them bringing forward on the social media so that the policymakers, so that the relevant government authorities can hear them out and see the ways of how to address them. But I think if we continue to let young people develop into misusing these platforms, then we can see that there is a clear linkages to how they could be exploited to recruitment of young people into violent activities, the use of young people to propagate hate speech. And I think this undermines the good results that we could achieve from promoting the good side of the social media. So yes, it's important that even at the government level, they have these policies that guide how the citizens are going to use these platforms. But it is at the same time important that as young people, we take it upon ourselves to see that instead of misusing this technology which is available to us, let us see the great prospects that it offers in terms of changing our personal lives, in terms of how it can offer a platform for our work and causes that we believe in. I think we can organize so much more positive actions through the social media, and this is what young people need to identify with. I think it is one of those spaces where there is no exclusion. And that is where we can freely speak our mind. That is where we can put forward our grievances, and the policymakers can take it from there. So, yes, there are challenges, but I think for now, in South Sudan, the positive impact of the social media is far greater than how it has been misused.
Thank you so much, Patrick, Mr. Patrick, for that very elaborate answer to the question. And I would like to go ahead and ask Ms. Namaku the next question. What key messages and advice would you like to give to the youth, especially the students, on the proper use of social media to promote positivity? Ms. Namaku, over to you.
Thank you. So for advice, I feel like the first thing is everyone uses social media for different reasons. And so people need to find their purpose. If you know what your purpose in life is, you could be able to use that and master your craft and then do something on social media. I have friends who are activists. And so if you're about activism, you could have your social media page created, and then all the content that you post is towards that goal. And then if you're into comedy, you have your page and you're just posting videos and doing funny things. And so each person, depending on each person, we all have different careers that we like, different things that we're interested in. And so you need to know what yours is and then build from there. And then with social media, especially after COVID, I saw a huge rise in people starting up their businesses. And I have a lot of female friends who sell things online and they do not have a shop at all. That's just from your house. Someone orders on the app. So it could be like Snapchat, they'll just text you and be like, hey, I want 2 pieces of like this dress or whatever. And then you package it and ship it to them. And I feel like it's cheaper to have a business online than in person, because if you're staying at home, you just have your business at your house. And so you just pay shipping fees to ship it to people, as compared to if you have an actual store where people have to come to you and they have to pay, and you have to pay rent for like the shop. And then with social media, you would be surprised. A lot of times your page, people that you did not know from like different parts of the world would get across your page and they could order from you. But if it was like in person, it's hard because you need like your friend to tell someone about your business, and that's how it moves. But on social media, like, you don't need your friends. You could literally just post and then it will get to whoever it's going to get to. And then I feel like a lot of times the youth in my generation, I have this quote that I always think about: comparison is a thief of joy. And so a lot of the kids my age, we go on Instagram and we're like, oh, this girl posted a cute purse and it's very expensive, so she must be rich. I want the same bag. And we forget to understand that what we see online is not real. And so every day it's like a competition. Everyone's like, oh, I want to be like this person. I want to be like this person. And then we don't live with these people. So you see this perfect picture on Instagram and you think, oh, that's what she looks like. No, sometimes we could use Photoshop and edit the pictures and make it look different. And so a lot of times people think Instagram is reality, and yet it's not. And so we get misled by that. And then people should learn how to be themselves. I feel like, especially with females, it's very hard. It's so easy to lose your self-esteem, because someone could just be like, oh, I don't like the way your eyebrows are shaped. And then that's going to affect you for like the rest of your life. And so you want to change your eyebrows. And then next time you'll be like, oh, my fingers are fat, I want to reduce them. And then you have all these things that you're just working towards changing, but it's not for you. It's for the way you want people to view you. And then your friends could be skinny and you're like, okay, I want to be skinny. And then now you're starving yourself so you could look picture perfect for Instagram. And I feel like until like the youth understand that Instagram is not real and we all don't have to look a certain way. Everybody's built different. We all are different. We're not going to look like the Instagram models. They could get surgery because they have money. They could fix their teeth, do whatever they want. But it's not a real life. We always forget what reality is. And then you have people getting sad and depressed because of what they see on social media, and it's not real. Like in one of my classes at school, we had to like interview people and talk to them. And it's crazy how much people believe in social media. It has so much power over kids my age. And though we fail to admit it, social media is good for certain reasons, but it's also bad. And so unless you know why you're on social media and what exactly you're doing there, you will get misled. And then for the people that have I have like friends who are always like posting what's happening around the world. I feel like a lot of times I do not watch the news, but if I go on Twitter, I could tell you what happened today in like a certain place just because people are always tweeting and there's always like things going really, really quick. It could be true information, it could be false information, but if you go on Twitter, things move very quick. There's always like something happening right now. And so I feel like the kids in my generation, if you master your craft, if you know what exactly you're doing on social media, why you're there, you could be able to get a lot of followers. You could have a lot of good connections, networking with people. You could like meet people who you never thought you'd meet before, and you could get exposure and they could promote your stuff. And next thing you know, you have like a really good job or you're actually doing what you love, but on a bigger scale. And then if you do not know what you're doing, you are going to get lost and it's going to affect you. And also, a lot of the kids my age, they just post whatever they want. And like Mary said, whatever you post is always going to come after you. People always find it. And it's crazy how people think, oh, I could just delete my message. No, you could delete it, but whatever you said, you already said it. And I have friends, like at school, we always have elections. People want to be like class president, but there was this one person who wanted to be class president, but we had racist tweets from them from like years ago in middle school, and they used that against him. And guess what? He was kicked out. He couldn't even go through the elections because of things that he did in middle school. So you have to be aware of what you're putting. I remember when I was 12 years old, my mom was like, "Oh, you have Facebook. You're not allowed to have Facebook." And then she was like, "Whatever you put there, it's always gonna stay there." And I was like, "Oh, I'll just block her. She won't find me." And she found me on Facebook again. And to me, I was like, how'd you even find me on Facebook? I blocked you. But you never know because it's social. She was like, I could just Google you. And I was like, wait a minute. I deleted the page and I blocked you. How did you Google me and find me? So like even on Instagram, you just have to Google someone's username on like Google and you're going to find their whole page popping up. It could be private, but you'll find at least one picture of that person online. So every single time, whatever we put is always going to stay there. And also I feel like, well, statistically proven right now, women use social media more than men. And so it's almost by like 15% more women than men using social media. I feel like men sometimes are just like, oh yeah, it's not for me. But women, we like to be on our phones. We always have our phones. And so like, it's a good thing for women. Like on Twitter and TikTok, there's this page where women anonymously leave messages to somebody and they tell them what they're going through. And then that person posts it. And then people in the comments give advice. And I feel like it's very helpful. And there's been a lot of girls who've been going through different problems in their lives, domestic violence and all these other issues, and they do not know how to escape that. But they have this community of people they've never met in their lives, but you just send your message to this anonymous person, they post it, and you get all this feedback. And you would be surprised at how many good people are there and how much advice people can get. And then sometimes, depending on where you live, there's people that'll tell you what kind of resources you could be able to access and how you could get them. And so that's also a helpful thing for people to know. And then scholarships. A lot of kids my age are like, oh, college is expensive. I found scholarships on Instagram. It literally will just pop up on your feed randomly, and you just have to find them. They're always in social media, and that's how you find them. I feel like because my generation, everyone is always like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And so like if it's on like LinkedIn or Indeed, we're probably not going to see it. But if it's on Instagram, we have a better chance of finding it. And also for men, I feel like a lot of the boys my age or the males, when something happens to a girl, they'll just come in and say sorry. And that's where it stops. Like they don't work towards, you could say sorry, but that's not going to fix the problem. They never work towards, okay, how do we end this? How do we fix this? And a lot of times I had a friend, something happened to her, and she told her story online and she was telling people what happened. And there was so much criticism. A lot of people are like, oh, you're lying. And so if you keep thinking people are lying, how are they supposed to come forward and use social media to tell their stories without them feeling like, oh, no one's going to listen to me? And so I feel like men have to have like, it's okay to say sorry, but you have to do more work. You have to be like, okay, we heard what you said. We're going to do this and this to help you, because I feel like men are more likely to listen to their fellow men than to listen to women. And so if one man finds what the problem is, like let's say, oh, this happened to your sister, and you find what happened to your sister, you could be able to educate the other boys around you, and it'll keep going. And so I feel like even though social media is good for both genders, but men have a little bit of more power because it just moves faster with them. Like women will go through these things, but until like majority of the government is men. So most times you have to find a man who is going to promote and who's going to acknowledge what's happening to you for there to be solutions. Because as women, society is against us. There's not much that we can do. Like we're going to be on Twitter all day complaining and doing all these things. But if it will go faster if a man just posted a picture and was like, oh, this and this happened, so let's cancel this person. But if a woman says, let's cancel, she's going to get bashed. And so I feel like the boys in my generation, as we're growing, they need to learn how to voice out and also stand up for their fellow peers and the females and their families and just people around you, because it could happen to this person today, tomorrow it could be your sister, it could be your aunt, it could be anyone in your family. And so I feel like men should be able to advocate as well. Advocacy is not just for women, and there should be an equitable division of resources. And so if things are happening, don't just ignore it because it's not happening to you. We should all be able to help one another and find solutions to these things. And then as for social media, my biggest thing is kids should still stay in school. I'll stick to that because we could lose TikTok tomorrow. So people still have to go to school. Don't just think because you have 2,000 followers on Instagram, then you're going to be famous forever. No, you still have to be in school because like Mary said, someone could report your page and next thing you know, it's gone. So if your page is gone, it's hard to get those 2,000 followers back again in like a week. Sometimes it takes years to get to those followers. So just stick in school, have your Instagram on the side or your social media, but don't make it take a huge part of your life, because with that social media, you should be your own person. You should have your own agenda, be like, have your 5-year goal planned out. And as I conclude for the girls, there's a book that I've been reading. Someone gave it to me for my birthday, and it's 12 Rules of Being a Powerful Woman by Sarah Ordo. It looks like this. I feel like it's really helpful. A lot of women and girls should read it while growing up, because in society, we're taught to be quiet and not to voice out what's happening to us. Like when you go to school, like when I was in middle school, they're like, oh, we're always like, shh, keep quiet, don't talk, don't do this. But certain times, in certain circumstances, you should be able to voice out what's happening to you and talk and just have that power. Don't let people take control of your life. If they take your voice away from you, then you have nothing. And so I think a lot of girls should be able to read that book, because I read it in one day. It's not really a big book, and it's super interesting. If you have kids, just get that for them, and it will really help them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Namaku, for sharing that experience. I always feel like if I want to feel like a superstar, Facebook is the place, I'm going to take, these very nice edited picture, and then I post, and then Mary is going to be the first person to ask me, oh, what are you eating? You're losing weight. We just feel nice. Like you said, women are the majority of social media users. And I think it's basically for that reason. I post a picture and somebody's following, oh, so what lipstick is that? They want to know where I bought it from, or what are you using on your skin? So it's good to some extent, but also to another extent, like you explained, it has an impact on those who are not able maybe to look as thin as you look, or to have clear skin as you have. So yes, thank you so much for sharing that. My next question is going to go to Ms. Joanne. What key messages should the journalists give to the youth that can help them involve in peace-building activities that can promote peace and unity in South Sudan? Ms. Joanne, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Veronica. I would not say this is a specific message that a journalist will have to put out there, like, do not do this, or do that, or that. However, a journalist being an influencer and a policymaker in a sense, should be able to put a few things while they execute or implement their duties during their works. So, looking at a journalist who's trying to make sure that uh, they can influence the community in a positive way, and this can only do when this journalist actually shows it by acting, by doing that. For example, we will talk of reporting on gender issues. Okay, the journalists who will choose to only write about women. Okay, but there's no way we are going to deal with women issues in our societies without involving men. Okay, so there's going to be this need for a journalist to show the world, because the community believes so much in a journalist, since a journalist is the medium of information between the sources and the community. So when it comes from a journalist, they trust it. They believe it is a fact, or it's a correct information put out there. So when journalists start to report about what affects both men and women, that becomes a sign to the community or the audience that receives that message that it is important to look at issues concerning men. We have all these, especially when dealing with mental health, where we say, oh, men, men are not free to express themselves. They're not vulnerable, because it is how our community, our norms and cultural values tells us in our communities that men are not supposed to be vulnerable. Okay, so when we journalists start to report on stories that affect men, the community gets to know that indeed men actually go through these things. Okay, so there's that need of gender reporting, where when you are putting out a story out there, you need to ensure that you don't focus on only the suffering, vulnerability of women. However, you could also look at how men are suffering in silence. When a man reads this, he will feel that our issues are actually being put out there. They would be interested. I'll tell you, when I posted this panel of discussion on my wall, a number of journalists reached out in my inbox and on my wall, and also other concerned citizens, saying, you are already showing gender inequality by having, someone said, 10 women against one gentleman. Okay? And I was like, no, that's not it. So men feel that when we put only one man, like Patrick right now, and especially when we talk of gender, men always have this withdrawal. They withdraw because they feel gender, oh, they're discussing feminism, they're talking about themselves, right? That is how they take it. So when they see Patrick today, they're like, oh, okay, there's also a man. And then they want to make it really hard, seem that we are trying to overtake the men in a sense. Why is he the only one? Why didn't you bring this? But when you tell them, come on board, we want to talk about gender equality, they'll be like, oh no, you can. And they can actually, they're good at recommending women who are vocal in that sense. They'll be like, so and so can do that, I cannot do that. Okay, so there's need for journalists. As far as journalism is concerned, it is one of the principles that you have to do in every story. You have to balance your story in terms of gender. If it's a vox pop, if it's a collection of voices and opinions, you have to put a man and you have to put a woman to make this a very good story. Okay, so we have to look at that. And then also we need to focus on reporting on issues. For example, we now think, most of our community people think that, communities think that domestic violence is only for women. Okay, when a man who's actually a victim of domestic violence tries to be like, women talk too much, okay, they will be like, oh, that's what men always do. But they actually men who are undergoing trauma and domestic violence. The women who are powerful enough to beat them up. But when they put it out there, because we have this, the media portrays women as the most vulnerable in the community, we think that, oh no, he was the problem. She did, she was the one that was beaten. Yet it's not the sense here. So journalists need to look at such stories and bring them forward. Okay, and then we have solution journalism, SOJO. So solution journalism is what actually every journalist should be doing. You cannot identify a problem without giving a solution. It makes no sense. Okay? Try to, when you're writing your story, okay, there is a flood, okay? There's a flood in Upper Nile and this and this and this. Okay, you've told us, yes, your role is to inform us. So what? You need to find a researcher, somebody who is well informed about how we can work on these floods, on how to address this issue, and then put that also as part of your story. Okay, that becomes solution journalism. You're trying to point to the problem and then find the right experts to bring in the solution. It's up to the policymakers whether they do it or not, but we've put the information out there. So these are things that journalists should be doing. Once journalists start focusing so much on solution journalism, we'll see that the perspective of the people or perception of the people or the audience changes, because there's a lot of misinformation as far as journalism is concerned. They think that journalism is a show-off business. They feel that journalism is just about, you saying I'm a journalist and all that, not knowing that actually journalism is supposed to impact. And for those that really feel that information put out there is against them, they see journalists as threats. Okay, journalism becomes a threat. It's not only a South Sudanese thing, but a worldwide thing. That's why journalism is a very risky business in the entire world. So when we start to put so much on solution journalism, the society will change how they look at journalism in general, and they start to even trust it more. I've had a number of leaders call journalists rumor mongers. They call them defamers. People that scandalous. You just want to make information put. They feel speaking out the truth in some sense or bringing the information the way it should is attacking them, and that becomes a problem. So when we start to bring the however part of it, we identify the wrongs, the problem, and then put in the solution, it makes more sense. Because at the end of the day, what we want to see is equality and peaceful coexistence. And we also have to see how journalists can do more of fact checking. Okay, it is in every journalism class that you learn to know what is worth and what is newsworthy, what is news. And from this, in my journalism class, they used to say when it bleeds, okay, it is news. When this disaster now, that's news. It's part of it, right? But when we also have to look at it from the other side, it contributes a lot to gender equality and peaceful coexistence. So fact checking in South Sudan, I want to appreciate so much, especially DeFi Head now through the 211 check department. They are doing a lot of trainings, capacity building as far as fact checking is concerned. They want to see that much as you're a journalist, yes, are you really doing the right thing? So when you learn how to report these pages on social media, okay, I've seen recently, I think 2 days ago, where on our South Sudanese Women Intellectuals Forum page, where there's this particular page 64, Radio 64, which is very toxic. It's more of the latest article was how the moderate people of South Sudan should not consider themselves as Equatorians. They should start to withdraw from Equatoria as a state. This is so much of, you can tell that however much this person was trying to put out his or her opinion, it was really, really more of violence, and it had a lot of rage, bitterness within them. So when we as South Sudanese and fact checkers and journalists in this country start to take it as our responsibility to take this down, to report it, And it can only happen as a collective responsibility. If we can get to do that, and I think it should be everyone's, not only journalists, as long as you want to make change in this community, you have to take it upon yourself. Defy Hate Now, the 211 check, always they call for influencers, activists, people who feel they want to learn more on fact checking to enroll for the 3 months fellowship program, which something which so many South Sudanese take for granted. Okay, if we can take the opportunity and learn these things, it's not only going to help the nation, but you yourself. It will teach you how to sense what is not good for your health, which will contribute to your mental health. And your mental health will help you contribute to the society positively. Okay, and all this is around peaceful coexistence and gender equality. So for my part, I think that is what I can say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Joan Mule, and I definitely agree with you. Most of the times I say that it's like the journalists are trying to race against who reports first. So they end up actually not reporting the story as a whole or as it should be. Also on social media, I see a lot of journalists, instead of sensitizing and creating awareness, the way they pass the message, it's like they're trying to instigate the population or a group of people against others. So I'm not sure what media law says against that or against such kind of reporting. I'm sure there's a media law that's supposed to regulate the way journalists basically reporting ethics. Most of the times I see our journalists lack that. To move to the next discussant, Mary, I'm back to Mary. Miss Mary, what are some of the challenges facing the youth today in communicating the right and accurate information that can reinforce peaceful coexistence and promote peace and gender equality? And what are some of your recommendations moving forward? Miss Mary, over to you.
Thank you, Veronica. If I can talk now, when it comes to challenges, of course, there are many, but I'll spare some. The youth, I think, basically are not well. I don't want to say they don't research, but they're not well. They do not really take time to research when it comes to putting out information, and okay, let me go to our generation a little bit. So I'm going to say I'm a semi youth, but like in our time, there was lots of books. There was a lot of like would expose to the mainstream media where you're like on news channels, and there were these other channels that were more like documentary centered. There were the ones that were entertainment centered. And then there was the books, and then you'd have to go to the library and read and come back. And then we had parents that were on our case. So whatever it is you presented, whenever you presented it, you had to have like an all-round 360 information about it, regardless of what it was. And so you are not allowed to just come and present something without having a factual. So what Joanne said earlier about verification. And that's one challenge is we do not, so like now we just at the touch of a button, it's like, oh my God, Google, you just click away. And the first information you get, which is like at the real top, is what you click and open, read, pick that and drop it. So there's no a lot of research done and counter research about whatever it is you are actually going through. And if we're talking about, for example, the peaceful coexistence among ourselves, we're talking about gender equality. We have different situations or conditions when it comes to our environment. So, for instance, in East Africa, it could be different from West Africa. From North, it could be different from the South. For example, in our side, maybe submissiveness is like almost frowned upon when it's a woman submitting to her husband. In the North, it's very normal. No one is talking so much about it. So, like, when you come to read about it and you want to present it, the youth generally do not go into intricacies. They're just giving a generic, sort of generic information that's not based on factual information around certain aspects of that topic. And that's like one problem. Um, Another thing I think is resources. We have a limited resource pool when it comes to trying to get information. As I said earlier, first thing you think of is Google. Like, I have a question. Literally, my daughter will come to me and say, Mom, no, my son will come and say, Mom, I have a question. They asked me about something in science and ecosystems. And when I hear that, my brain freezes and I'm thinking, oh my God, he just said ecosystems. Eco sounds like eco something. Is it environment? So I'm like thinking, and the first thing I do is rush my phone and I'm like typing in, what he just asked me. That is really bad. That shouldn't be the case. But then again, if I look around my house, how many science books do I have? Like factually, how many science books do I have in my house? Is there a library in town in Juba? Is there a library, for instance, that I can go to and actually research for him? Is there a place that he can go to and just, sit and try to nourish himself with information and knowledge? Is there a place? Other than that, are there groups, that he can go to and sit around and they can have this fruitful discussion about the topics they're talking about at school? So, like, I feel like there's also that limited resource pool that we have as a community. So the youth literally do not have a place to go to actually look for that. Sometimes we think, oh, let me go to Wikipedia. That has like the most updated, the most factual information. But that's not true. It's also written by a human being like you and me. So what assures you that that Wikipedia page about, for example, one of our activists is very right? No, it's someone who wrote something that they thought was factual. Someone came and corrected certain information. So that's another challenge. The fact that we do not have resource pool, like enough places. So, like, for example, where Namaku is, I'm pretty sure she can just pick a library card, she goes somewhere and like, because, it's the States. There's so many places they can, get. But for us here, we're still growing, we're still developing, we're still a nation that's coming up with ways to sort of like have a more rounded society. And we're still struggling with the peaceful aspect of it before we actually get to the education and the health and everything else. And nothing can move without the peace. And that's like one thing. There's something else you mentioned at the end concerning recommendations, right? Um, when it comes to recommendations, I believe it's going to go back to our policymakers. They really need to put a foot down. Like, we have our annual budgets and the percentages that are allocated, for example, to education or to health or to whatever it is that whatever sector it is, there needs to be a very intentional approach when it comes to, for example, the education sector, especially like what I mentioned, the issue of library and resources. There needs to be very intentional approaches towards that. Until now, I think we still don't have a museum. We still don't have an actual national library. We don't have an architecture, or, an infrastructure on ground that can assist us with that. And that is very, like, that's one thing that I feel like we could move towards. But if we're talking about something more on our level as people, maybe on social media, we could harness our power as activists, pro, gender equality, pro peaceful media platforms, and come up with some sort of campaign that pushes for these sort of norms, and things that could actually help us to develop or to like structure these sort of initiatives. And the government is listening, like what Patrick said earlier, they've started noticing that social media has power. They're trying to, to sort of regulate the media. But then again, it's really hard to regulate social media, but they feel like, okay, they've noticed that we have power. And so I think that's one way that we could push our agenda forward as a youth. Yeah, that's, I think, briefly what I'd like to say.
Thank you so much, Miss Mary. And now I'll move to Patrick. Mr. Patrick, what are some of the challenges facing the youth today that make them use social media to spread hate speech, hate messages, to promote gender inequality and disunity? And what are your recommendations moving forward? Over to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Ms. Veronica. I think the challenges which are affecting young people, which is translated to them misusing social media, is everyday problems that we see when we get out of our homes and move into the streets. We are talking about issues to do with lack of jobs and employment opportunities. We are talking about the lack of skills for young people to equip themselves so that they can take up opportunities that they can use to transform their lives as they have, aspired. And I think these are the critical issues that now the government has to address, that families have to address, and also as individuals, we have to address how do we create opportunities for ourselves? How do we create conducive environment for young people to thrive so that any activity that they undertake is productive? I think what we're seeing now on social media is an expression of that dissatisfaction. If, for example, with the government or with whoever young people feel has failed them. So yes, it is not a surprise sometimes when I see what young people are writing on the social media. Obviously, it is not something good, but yes, there are some root causes as why they are doing that. So it's important that at the institutional level there are deliberate policies that intend to empower young people, and I believe if young people are empowered, they are going to put their energy to proper use. Also, I think the lack of awareness on the cyber crimes and computer misuse provisional order. I think young people sometimes they get into the social media platforms and feel there is no policing, and they believe they can behave as they want. But I think that is no longer going to be the case. I think in many parts of the world, we're seeing increasingly that there's a tendency to regulate it. And in South Sudan, it is not going to be an exception. The government is obviously going to take steps to see that they regulate the cyberspace to protect and prevent abuse of this technology. So what is important right now, I think, is for us as young people to sensitize ourselves and raise awareness about the positive part that the technology can provide for us to change our lives, to promote our agenda, to promote societies that are respectful to the inclusion of women in different spheres of influence, to promoting the need for youth inclusion in different spaces, to see that the role of young people is amplified. And I think we have a great chance to do that. And it is now upon each and every one of us to see that that is the narrative that we are promoting about young people on the social media. And obviously, we have that collective power to bring together our hands and advance the causes which we believe in. And we have seen this every now and then, that every time young people come together on social media and identify on a cause and they commit to it, we see a policy change. So yes, that shows that we have the ability to use this technology the right way. And for those few who are misusing it, I think it is important for us to also educate them to see that there is the proper use of this technology. And I think I want to highlight a bit about the Cyber Crimes and Computer Misuse Provisional Order 2021. Yes, in the past I'd mentioned that there was no regulation, but now the government is taking this very serious, and now there is need for awareness about this order, because we see clearly that it is meant to prevent the abuse, of this technology. And if young people are not aware about this new regulation which is coming in, then they might find themselves victims of offenses which they might not understand. And I think it is going to seek to address issues around disinformation, around the commitment of frauds, and these are things which young people now need to be aware of that. They can no longer freely roam on the streets of social media, hiding behind anonymity to commit crimes and to undermine, institutions, and to also promote misinformation and bully people. I think all of these things are going to be a history, and it is important that now we need to aware them about this new legislation which is coming in, and also try to focus their mind to see the greater good that can come out of the proper use of social media technology. And I think this is what we need to push. And with more opportunities coming in, with the increasement in access to internet, this awareness has to come handy. It is something which can no longer relegate to every individual to self-regulate. This is where I want to stop.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. I totally agree with you that we need a lot of sensitization and awareness about the use of social media and how it impacts us in our daily lives and even in our future lives. My next question is going to go to Ms. Namaku. What are some of the challenges facing students today, especially with the rise of social media? What are some of your recommendations moving forward? Over to you, Ms. Namaku.
Thank you. So, for the challenges, I feel like it's just comparison and everyone thinking everything's supposed to be a certain way. Like even when you go on like social media, I feel like recently a lot of people have been posting the same video, just like different people are posting it. And so people are not thinking on how to be creative for their own. Like, let's say I'm a YouTuber, an influencer. There's so many people doing a day in a life or what I eat in a day, but what would you do that would make you stand out and look different? Don't just follow the crowd because, oh yeah, everyone's doing this, I'm just going to do this. Don't do it because everyone's doing it. Find your own find your own things and work on it and do it. And it's good to be unique. And also, I think another challenge is we're just focused so much on social media. People take it so seriously that it starts affecting your like regular life. It shouldn't be like us waking up in the morning. The first thing we should not be thinking about is, oh, let me check like texted me on Instagram or whatever. There should be other things that you should look for in your day, not just using your phone. Because if we did not have Wi-Fi, if internet got shut down, then what are you gonna do? There should be more to your life than just social media. And then all this comparison stuff needs to stop. People should stop thinking, "Oh, I have to look a certain way." No, you don't. Everyone's different, and everyone's not made to be the same. And then for solutions, I feel like people should stop. Like when you use social media, do it for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. Don't go on social media giving people like a hard time, bullying people, just like saying a bunch of mean things to other people and just like, stalking people. Don't do that on social media. And people forget to understand that what we put there is always going to stay there. And so you don't want to be that person 10 years from now who's going to be, everyone will be like, oh yeah, we have your tweets from like when you were younger. And then it's going to run after you because what goes around comes around. And I feel like people should be using social media for more positive reasons. Like there's a lot of things going on in the world today that people don't even talk about. It's good to have like, I told my friends, if you do not want people to know who you are, make an anonymous page. Just have like a random name. You don't have to put a profile picture, but it could be a page whereby you talk about things that are happening in the world. If no one knows that it's your page, they're not going to personally attack you. You could just be like, today we're going to talk on what is happening, tribalism. Tomorrow it could be child labor, it could be anything. But as long as people do not know who you are until you get comfortable with them knowing who you are, then yeah, you could like put your profile picture. But people do not, you don't have to be like, okay, this is Elizabeth's Instagram, this is her profile picture, she's going to be an activist. You could start slow. They don't really need to know who you are. As long as you're attacking the issues and talking about them, later on you could be like, yeah, I made this Instagram page like 2 years ago, and then it's time for people to know who you are when it's like growing bigger. And also, there's a lot of jealousy with the social media world right now. People are stalking other people. People are getting like really, really jealous and getting angry. People should be careful with the kind of pictures they put out there and what they keep posting, especially with girls. Like I know it's cool for your friends to be posting, oh, they're going to the beaches this summer. They're all posting pictures in bikinis and all these things. But I feel like everyone has different friends. You need to know your family and where you come from. You don't want to be that person who's trying to copy everybody else and then you get in trouble with your family for posting certain things because everyone's posting it. So I feel like people should have their own values that they know as a person. Be like, okay, I'm this person's daughter. My mom would not want me doing this, and I'm not going to do it because other people are doing it. And so this whole entire social media thing, it's good to have a different page. Like you don't have to be posting on your page as long as it's just you have a page you don't post. That's up to you. You don't have to post because other people are posting. And then for the guys, I feel like a lot of the young guys now, they go on social media for the wrong reasons. They just go and start texting a bunch of people. You don't want to be the boy who's disturbing people's daughters. That's not why you have social media. You don't want to be texting, oh, I'm going to text Elizabeth today. Tomorrow I'm going to text Sandra. Tomorrow will be this other person. No, there's more to life than just going on Facebook and texting all these random girls who you did not even know. Sometimes the girls are way younger than you. You don't want to be locked up because you're texting an underage person. And so find your purpose. You know your values, you know where you come from. Everyone has their own different story. And every day you should try to be better than what you were yesterday. And so you should not be like, oh, I'm just going to be on Instagram. I'll go live. No, you wake up in the morning, read a book or something, go to work, go to school, find your purpose, use social media for the good reasons. And I feel like you could learn a lot of skills on social media. You know, men like to say, oh, I'm not going to, especially Sudanese men, they like to say, yeah, my mom's going to cook for me, or like my sisters will cook. You could go on YouTube and watch how to cook. You could watch like literally cooking videos and learn how to cook. And then you never know, because when you go to college, your mom's not going to be there cooking for you. You're going to have to cook for yourself. So you could learn like little skills. Girls, we could learn how to fix furniture from YouTube. You can learn how to do like little things. And sometimes, you know, I have a sister who's 15. She learned how to braid from watching videos. And in America, it's hard to find people to do your hair. And so if you learned that, you could use that skill and make money out of it. So there's more to learn on social media than just texting people and just being mean to other people and wanting to be like everybody else that you see. And so I feel like, yeah, the biggest thing is stop comparing yourself to other people, be your own person, know your values and who you are, and then find your purpose and what's the reason that you're having social media for. Don't just have it because everybody has it and it's cool. No, there has to be a purpose to it.
Thank you once again for sharing your experience, and I want to agree with a lot of the things you have said. When you said we do not know the motive why some people are on social media, even if I know you as a friend, maybe from church or from somewhere else from work, I do not know why you're on social media. Out of experience, I know somebody who like started chatting with someone, and then she disclosed a secret about a certain government official. And what this person did actually was he took the information and gave it to this government official. Yani just the exchange he had with that lady. So at the end, this lady was working for this government official, and then she was called, she was threatened, and she thought all along, this guy is my friend. I can tell him the gossip I had about this guy. But she didn't know that, okay, this guy is maybe an underground cover for this government official. So also, you mentioned something earlier on, like we need to get a life. It's like we don't know what it's like Mary mentioned earlier on. We don't have books at home. Everything is about social media these days. I remember during the Ugandan election, when we had an internet shutdown, was it for 2-3 days? That was when I sat down like, oh, okay, what just happened? I tried to look around the house. I didn't even have a book to read. The only thing which was there maybe was TV to watch, but you get tired of watching TV. So it gave me an awakening of, this thing is addictive. And sometimes I think as much as it has some very helpful ways, or it connects us to people, our loved ones, or maybe we use it for business purposes. Also, when we become too addicted to it, it has an impact on our mental health and even physical well-being. My next question is going to go to Ms. Joanne Mule. What are some of the challenges that journalists are facing today with reporting accurate and positive information given the rise of citizen reporting on social media? What are some of your recommendations moving forward? And just before you come in, these days we don't actually buy newspaper. So because I wake up in the morning and then I check on Facebook and I can see what iRadio is reporting on. So Ms. Joanne Mule, over to you, please. Can you tell us how that has impacted on journalism and reporting?
Thank you so much. I love the fact, yeah, the fact that indeed most of us are not buying newspapers because citizen journalism has eroded the burden, people call it burden, of reading. Okay, we feel that why should I read if I can get it on social media where there are 2 and 3 lines. Okay, so the entire community has changed, or trend has changed in that people are more digital, people are more online than getting the newspaper and doing more of the print reading and all that. And actually, I think with time, I don't know, I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but as the years pass by, it's going to be so hard for you to find a newspaper people buying newspapers. Our parents used to buy them, but right now we don't buy them because we can get that on social media, we can get that on the internet, we can get that anywhere we want. Okay, but then it comes with a lot of misinformation. It comes with a lot of things. So it's actually more draining for you to focus on the online content than this the newspaper where you get the entire information and trust the source. Okay. Meanwhile, somebody on social media will just put on, will just go and write something about something, and then you think because you believe in them, maybe you trust them for some reason, the information is true, whereby we'll have misinformation. Okay, somebody will ignorantly share information because they're not informed. They do not know, but they just trust the person who shared the information. Ah, my, it came from so and so, it should be true. And then before you know it, if we were actually to track down who is sharing this information, you'll find that you'll be arrested. But ignorance, of something is not an excuse in law. So you just have to, we see that so many people are doing a lot of misinformation. And then you'll find a class of people who deliberately want to misinform the world because of their selfish interests. Okay, somebody will just come up with weird story which is too good to be true for a learned person, and then it has all the facts according to how you receive the information, and you feel like, yes, this is true. We'll tell you a few facts, but it's not really, really, really true. And then you share it, and at the end of the day, the person will do it to get more likes on social media, will do it to get more followers, will do it actually. And most of these people are insecure. Okay, they don't feel their relevance to themselves, so they have to create something or defame somebody and character assassinate someone in order to feel exalted and to feel I have an impact in the society, which is very, very, very bad and wrong. So what happens is we'll have violence, we'll have bitterness within ourselves, we'll have this conflict in our communities, tribalism, and then the other one will also see the information you put out about that tribe, because with South Sudanese, they're so proud of their tribes, by the way. I will say I am a blah 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 blah. I hate blah blah because they did this and this and this and this. That is all your story. And somebody also from that same community who has the same view will also bring that information and create something about your society. And at the end of the day, big thing with citizen journalism. We also have people who actually pay, okay, pay for influencers, bloggers, vloggers. They pay them to say given information because they have a vast, followership. So they will just give maybe somebody did something and you have the money, just pay somebody, write this article about this, make me look this, and then you find somebody doing some PRO in a negative way, a PR, I mean, in a negative way, and the social media users will just believe it and take it. But behind that is misinformation because of the pay. Okay, and that contributes so much to how a journalist is doing the work. It brings mistrust from the audience, from the public, to us, the journalists. And also we have the fake news. This is all something that happens around fake news. It also goes back to somebody creating something that is not real, but it looks really real. You cannot question it because you feel. This goes to images. People edit images, okay, and they can even edit videos to cut out certain parts. According to, you heard the story of Madame Ruto, from Mary today, where you don't see the rest of the information, but you cut out only that thing that interests you, and you know that when you put it out there, you are going to achieve your goal, and people are going to be like, I saw it. But people also don't believe that people can edit these images. We've seen a lot of images of soldiers killing somewhere years back in some country, and then somebody waits for tension to be in the society in South Sudan, and then they'll bring that image back, post it, and say, it happened in this place, and these were these people, they're from this tribe, and and this, and then we all pick it from there because we already having issues with it. They're very timely, by the way, when giving out this information, especially for bloggers, because they study people. Social media is all about what you know about your followers. You just create something to fit your interest and also know how to influence them, and then the politics all keeps going, and before you know it, you have your likes, you have your followers, and all that, and you feel happy about it, which is actually wrong. So that affects so much journalism as a career, and that's why people look at journalism as a business that is not worth it, and yet it is really a very noble profession that people should value and see that. And then also we have issues to do with ignorance of the masses, okay? Ignorance of the masses of the media laws. It's only the media houses that have the media laws. At least they do remind themselves about it, and they keep on, knowing, and some of them even don't have these media laws. Okay, now that's where the problem is. So if the masses, the public is not informed about how the media operates and what the media should put out there, how then are we going to solve this problem? So they just have to go with citizen journalism, seeing that everything posted online is the right information, and then they take it from there. But if coming to the recommendations, if we can get back, if we can sit back and go back to our principles as journalists, to see that we are doing the right thing, being objective, balancing the stories and fact checking the information we put out there. And then you mentioned how most journalists are actually having mental health related issues because of the pressure to put out information first before another journalist publishes the story. You see that somebody wants to put it, oh, blah, 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 and before you know it, they've put actually very wrong information. They've put something weird. And then it comes back to affect your ego because you feel, if I correct it, my followers are not going to believe in me again. They will start questioning what I put out there. Okay, now that becomes a challenge. And then you'll find, because for any journalist or media house, when you make a mistake, the best way to deal with it is to come back and correct it. Okay, you have to correct it. You have to apologize to the people you've defamed, because if you don't do that, and then you'll have to go to the courts of law and then see how to deal with that. And that means it's going to tarnish and affect your career from today on till the end of time, which is very dangerous. Again, we need this need for regulation. Trust me, because there's freedom of expression, but what are you expressing is the question. When we get to know this. Where this is where the media, they constitute those that implement, the activists, and all that come up with the policies and all these need to work hand in hand. They need to work together so that it's not extreme, so that the media is not also oppressed, okay, from its roles. They need to understand how journalism works. Yeah, no, it's not that when we start doing PR, because it's so different from public relations, and we're just putting out something out there. But somebody who is in position might want it to be more of public relations. That brings the crisis. So if these two can work together and see that they are both doing what they should do, then I think we can make a, it can be successful for journalism and also social media usage in this country to bring about peaceful coexistence in our society. And I also think journalists need to write more stories on the impacts of social media, because people are not informed about how dangerous social media is. Until you feel drained, you might be going through mental health crisis because you did not, you felt that it wasn't, it's not important, right? You feel that it's not important, you don't really see the use of it. But when we get to know more on how indeed social media is this, I like how Elizabeth has mentioned of most of these things that most of us, especially the teenagers and the youth, do not understand. The pressure from social media is too much, because we have that picture of social media is perfection, social media is this and that, and that's where you get the likes, that's where you get to be loved and all that. And then it comes to the filters, it comes to all these creating stories, making yourself who you're not, which in return, if the truth comes out, you'll have mental health crisis. Okay, so these are things that I think we need to put into consideration. And then also capacity building, and anybody else that has a role in the community should be sensitized, informed about social media. Because today, especially in South Sudan, I'm so excited that South Sudan, being a very young nation, is catching up, and our people love to experience and explore things. This has come up. Let me get there. TikTok is booming. Blah 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 blah. But if we can start giving them capacity building trainings on how to do the right thing, to promote the good things through the social media, and then we can really achieve a lot in our professions, in our careers, and in our communities as a whole. So I think basically we just have to do a lot. It is a collective responsibility, and yeah, I really appreciate so much the opportunity given to me, and all of us here to discuss this. And most of all, mental health is the one that will be affected when we fail to use social media the right way. So we need to get to know more about how social media affects our mental health and how we can impact the society. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Joan Mule, and I agree with you. The awareness, the capacity building, especially on the side of journalists. I also feel that we need to strengthen the legislation that we currently have on regulation of media, and including social media. Also, we might have to enact new laws, especially things to do with copyright laws. You know how people just go on social media and maybe take your picture and post it somewhere, and then Mary, why are you laughing? I posted something some time back, and somebody actually picked it, the way I put it, and posted it on their page. And everybody started telling me, no, you have to sue them. They can't do that. They can't do that. But I'm thinking, okay, do we have such laws to actually support in the event that I decide I want to sue this person? So it also, I think at the end, it's a lesson to us that we have learned today that not everything should be for social media, because the records are probably permanent, and you don't know how it might be used against you in the future. Now, before we come to the end of this interesting discussion, I would like to thank the United States Agency for International Development for sponsoring this discussion, and our great panelists for taking their time to participate in this conversation. I would also like to thank everyone out there for tuning in for this discussion. And I would also like to thank our team members who are working behind the scenes. We have now come to the end of our show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and good night, wherever you're watching us from. Thank you, and may God bless you all.